Although the 55-year-old was acquitted of the more serious charges in his case, sex trafficking and racketeering charges, he was convicted on 2 counts of transporting individuals for prostitution in July. Each count carries a maximum prison sentence of 10 years, although the prosecution urged the judge to sentence Combs, who has pleaded not guilty to all charges, to a total of 11 years for both charges. The government wrote in its September 30th filing obtained by NBC News, the defendant will not be punished for any crimes of which he was acquitted, of course, but punishment for his crimes of conviction must take into account the manner in which he committed them.
On October 3rd, Sean Diddy Combs will stand before Judge Subrahmanyam for sentencing. Diddy has even asked to wear his own clothes that day, hoping to avoid the prison uniform. But behind the request lies something much heavier, a 189-page government memo demanding at least 135 months in prison, more than 11 years, along with steep financial penalties. Inside this file are photographs of Cassie, details from the hotel incident, and witness impact statements from Cassie, Deontay Nash, Capricorn Clark, and others. Federal prosecutors argue his crimes weren't isolated moments, but a long pattern of violence, coercion, and manipulation. While acquitted of racketeering and trafficking, the jury still found him guilty of transporting women across state lines for prostitution under the Mann Act. Authorities claim he has shown no remorse, even turning blame onto his victims, leaving behind deep emotional, physical, and psychological scars.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing another legal loss. Days before the rap mogul's scheduled sentencing for his prostitution-related convictions on October 3rd, a U.S. district judge has denied his team's request for an acquittal and a new trial. The judge, who presided over Combs' lengthy sex trafficking case, noted in his September 30th ruling, obtained by Deadline, the government at trial presented overwhelming evidence of Combs' guilt under the Mann Act on many occasions, with respect to its ex-girlfriends Cassie Ventura and a woman who only went by Jane.
The government is pushing beyond the jury's verdict. In their view, Diddy's story can't be told without the other incidents. They've raised accusations of Capricorn Clark's kidnapping, the break-in at Kid Cudi's home, even the explosion of Kid Cudi's car. And then there's the 2016 Los Angeles hotel tape, the haunting footage of Diddy chasing Cassie, knocking her down, and kicking her. The jury never convicted him on that. But prosecutors now argue it proves the pattern of violence behind his Mann Act crimes. They've also asked the judge to consider disturbing accounts of sexual assault, drugging, and exploitation. Some of these were never charged. Others were tied to counts where he was acquitted. His defense calls this prejudice, saying he's being punished for crimes a jury already rejected. But prosecutors fire back, citing legal precedents where judges could factor acquitted conduct into sentencing, insisting it's fair game in a case this serious.
Tonight, prosecutors asking a judge to sentence Sean Diddy Combs to more than 11 years in federal prison, arguing he engaged in violence and put others in fear. A stark contrast to Combs' legal team, who are seeking 14 months, which would see him walk free in a matter of weeks, as he's already served 13 months in prison.
Look for the judge to land somewhere in the middle, split the difference, a sentence of maybe 4 to 6 years.
Federal prosecutors say acquittals don't erase the truth. They claim Diddy's violence, fear, and manipulation must weigh heavily when the judge decides his fate. They highlight Cassie, describing years of beatings, humiliation, drug-driven sessions with escorts, and secret tapes used to control her. Then came Jane, from 2021 through 2024. Prosecutors say she was trapped in a cycle of drugs, escorts, and financial control, with her rent and life tied to his threats. The breaking point came in June 2024, when they allege he assaulted her and forced her into a humiliating encounter. Injuries later shown to the jury. For this, the government wants every enhancement the law allows: abuse of trust, serious injury, fear, obstruction. They're asking for 135 months, comparing him to traffickers who served decades. Their message is clear: wealth and celebrity will not shield Diddy from the consequences of his actions.
Now to the Sean Diddy Combs case. We may learn this week if he will be released on bond while he awaits sentencing. His lawyers filed a request asking the judge to release Combs on $50 million bond. Combs was convicted earlier this month on charges of transportation to engage in prostitution.
Cassie's letter to Judge Subramanian is nothing short of heartbreaking. She says she spent weeks trying to find the words, because how do you describe living as someone's prisoner? She recounts testifying while 9 months pregnant, reliving the trauma. From the time she was 19, Sean Diddy Combs allegedly groomed her, forced her into drug-fueled sessions with escorts, and demanded her obedience through fear. She was dressed, filmed, and blackmailed with threats of exposure if she resisted. Cassie explains how saying no meant punishment. Her car, her phone, or even her safety taken away. She says his control spread beyond her, casting fear over her friends and family. And it wasn't only threats. For over a decade, she endured physical violence, being slapped, punched, stomped on, and thrown against walls. In her letter, she pleads with the judge to see what the jury missed. That behind the fame was a cycle of abuse no one should endure.
The moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say.
It just came at the right time.
Cassie Ventura breaking her social media silence 3 months after her emotional testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. But the message has nothing to do with her ex.
In her letter, Cassie paints a haunting picture for Judge Subramanian. She says the jury saw the photos, bruises on her back, a gash near her eye, and the 2016 footage of her being chased, thrown down, and beaten as she shielded herself on the floor. She tells how makeup artists hired by Sean Diddy Combs covered the bruises while she lived in hypervigilance, fearing the next demand or punishment. Drugs, she says, became the only way to numb herself through the horrors. The defense tried to sell it as a modern love story, but Cassie calls it a decade of violence, control, and humiliation. She writes of clawing her way back, 7 years of rehab, therapy, and fighting off suicidal thoughts to reclaim her body, mind, and freedom from the trauma she endured. In her letter, Cassie shares that while she's learning to live free from the horrors of the past, fear is never far away. She says she devotes herself to her husband and children, but still wakes up from nightmares, still struggles with flashbacks, and still needs psychological care. Her fear of Sean Diddy Combs is so real that she relocated her family out of New York, staying private in case he or his associates seek revenge. Cassie rejects claims that he's a changed man, calling his supposed desire to mentor abusers a lie. She says the man she knew was always manipulative, power-hungry, and violent, and that hasn't changed. He denied her civil allegations again and again, until the release of damning footage proved her words true. Only then did he issue what she calls a fake apology online. An apology she says will forever mark his name with shame.
Combs was convicted on prostitution charges over the summer, but acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, which carried up to a life sentence in prison. A source familiar with Combs' strategy telling NBC News that the mogul plans to address the court himself during his sentencing hearing. Both sides have submitted letters to the judge, one written by Cassie Ventura, Combs' former girlfriend, who was a key prosecution witness, writing in part, "I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up." Combs' 85-year-old mother writing that her son has made some terrible mistakes in his life, which I know he recognizes.
In the final words of her letter, Cassie tells the judge how Sean Diddy Combs left her feeling powerless and invisible for more than 10 years. She says the jury may not have understood the coercion behind her actions, but she knows the truth, and that truth deserves to shape his sentence. Writing out her experiences has brought her tremendous pain. Yet she says she will not remain silent. Cassie urges the court to remember the bravery it took for victims to step forward and to recognize the many lives torn apart by Combs' control and abuse. She makes it clear that moving on is not easy, but justice must reflect the reality of what happened. She closes her letter with gratitude for being heard, signing her name, Cassandra Ventura Fine. Cassie wasn't the only one. The judge also received letters from former employees and insiders who once lived inside Diddy's empire. They described being physically, sexually, and emotionally abused. One even said they were assaulted by him directly. Every single one of them urged the court to deliver a tougher sentence, stressing how his years of unchecked violence left deep scars. And when you put all these voices together, Cassie's story doesn't stand alone. It becomes part of a larger pattern. Prosecutors say it's not just one person's word anymore. It's a chorus exposing how Diddy allegedly used money, fame, and power to abuse and manipulate. Now, the sentencing hangs in the balance. Will the judge go light, or will he deliver the kind of punishment these victims say is long overdue? One thing's clear: the world is finally peering into the dark reality of Diddy's empire.